we're talking about basically kind of got into the realm of local politics in this most recent conversation, and so fittingly, we actually have one of the members of the local Johnson City government to come speak with us. Joining us now will be Phil Penzola. Phil is the director of the Johnson City Public Works Department that provides an assortment of services intended to maintain the health, safety, and welfare of the community, as well as enhance the quality of life through code enforcement, right-of-way maintenance, and transportation improvements. So let's take a deep breath, and then we will welcome Phil Penzola to the stage. Thank you.
Deep breath.
Thanks very much for inviting me, and good afternoon.
Why don't you get as close to your mouth as possible? So, there we go.
I guess everybody can hear me now.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is talk a little bit about some of the things that we've done in developing a sustainable community. And I'll just go through 10 initiatives, and I'll detail each one of these in the upcoming minutes. The first is the recycling program. We started the first curbside program about 30 years ago in the state of Tennessee. We're the only full-service recycling program in the state that's municipally operated. We recycle about 6,200 tons per year. The yard waste program involves both your brush that is converted to a boiler fuel and sold to Domtar or given away. We've been giving it away here recently, if you're interested. And the leaves we give to the mulch company that has an operation out on Market Street. So that accounts for about 15 to 16,000 tons. This gives you a chart kind of showing the amount of tonnage. One of the things that we did do was we reviewed we call various cities in Oregon, Colorado, etc. that's pretty well known for high diversion rates. And once we began to ask the questions, are diversion rates on residential or equivalent or exceed theirs? And so you can see that the yard waste is a big part of the recycling effort in Johnson City. Old landfills, these are kind of dead spots in the community, so we try to reuse them. Civitan Park is now home to 5 soccer fields. Cache Hollow is home to our yard waste diversion program. Bowser Ridge, which is out at Eastern Star Road, has a model airplane club. Also houses the TWRA houses their offices out there. We're also looking at a 5-megawatt solar facility in that area. And Irish Glen is in operation, which is out on Main Street. Irish Glen was the first Subtitle D landfill, which meets all of the requirements today. It's a 12.1 million cubic yards of airspace. We've been operating since '94, and we still have 20 years of life left in the landfill. And it's located on an old strip mine. In the community, had basic industries and had a lot of iron ore facilities along what is now state of Franklin. That used to be railroad lines through there. And so a lot of the soils that we have in the old industrial part of the community is contaminated. So to reuse a contaminated site, you have to recap it and monitor it and that sort of thing. So we have about 6 of these sites under our domain. The Millennium Center, for example, is on an old, it's on a Brownsfield site, and everything associated in that vicinity. Even at the corner, the gas company used to be at the corner of what is now University Parkway instead of Franklin. It's contaminated, but we're able to do the conversions. Founders Park is contaminated, but we're able to cap it, and then we monitor whether or not we're affecting, seeing what the effects on both the aquifer and the deep aquifer is having from that site, see if there's any movement. So we've been pretty good about it, and we can make some pretty good use of the land that's typically dead zones. We have a waste to energy plant. There is methane that comes off of the landfill, and so we capture all of that methane and convert it to almost a natural gas type of, it's similar to natural gas, about 90% of natural gas. We then convert it and ship it to the VA, which is next to the Millennium Center, and that is used to help power up the VA ETSU's got a facility over there and that sort of thing. So we did that in 2007, and then 2011 we added a electrical generator, a 1 megawatt generator to that facility that puts the power into the grid system. So it's been a highly successful program. And this is where it's located on the Glen site. And generally speaking, it's equivalent to powering up 4,000 to 5,000 homes. We have a pipeline that runs through the middle of town that we had to install to get the gas over to the power plant at the VA. And that's the power plant. Water quality, we obviously have flooding as a sustainable community. We have flooding that occurs. The one that gets the highest degree of notoriety is what happens downtown. In 2003, we had a major flood, so we decided to, since the government was putting very little effort into the drainage program, we got a utility fee pass, and that shows up on your water bill. In 2006, we also adopted, we got the most stringent regulations in the state, that if you want to develop in a floodplain, that you have to offset the floodplain, and that you have to detain a 100-year, for a 100-year storm, you have to detain that on your site. We also constructed Founders Park with those dollars to help alleviate flooding. We developed a walkway along Brush Creek near ETSU behind the Millennium Center to help with the study of Brush Creek and the impacts it has on the environment. We developed in Sinking Creek, working with Boone Watershed Group, we did a lot to try to clean up the water quality in that basin by hooking people onto the sanitary sewers. There's a lot of septic tanks and that sort of thing. And we also put in a wetlands area. We've also constructed a wetlands area at Broadway and East Main. Here's a picture of Founders Park. I'm sure most everybody's been there. We're developing another park. It's called King Commons, and that's where the old U-Haul was, and it's under construction. This is essentially what it looks like. These are the original creek and King Creek join in the middle of the site and then feed back to the existing King Creek, to the existing Brush Creek. Included in this will be things like permeable pavers in the parking areas so that we can hold the water and not have it discharge. We'll be putting in it's a solar stone walk paths and etc. In the park to try to give it a sense of an environmental feel. It's under construction and should be completed this July. Got a different set of walls so that it's not the same as what you see at Founders. But you can go over there today and see the various walls that are being built and so on.
Where is this?
It is, if you go down Market to Commerce, take a right, okay? And you're along Commerce and there it is.
As you approach Rome.
As you approach Rome. It's on the left. It's a 3-acre site. You can't really miss it. Right. We developed greenways and bikeways. We try to do about 2 miles of walkways a year. In 2015, we completed the Tweetsy Trail. And here's the trail. If you've been on it, it's kind of a nice deal. My dog and I walk it all the time. We also developed a master plan. This is the Tweetsy, the 10-mile segment that runs to Elizabeth. We have a plan now to develop a 25-mile loop around the city. Everything that you see in green's been built. What's on the left side, lower left area that's red, will be under construction in about 2 weeks. We're developing, changing out the main water line, transmission line, and when we do, we're going to buy land to extend the trail all the way to the Watauga River, which is this area. And then we would run or this area. And then if you look at it, what we were looking at was how much would it cost to connect 95% of the neighborhoods in Johnson City to a trail system so that you have fairly easy access to a trail. I think the number turned out to be around 15 to 20 million. This particular project, to complete it out, I think was 5 to 7 million. And so we're moving in that direction over the next 5 to 10 years. In 2000, a few years ago, 2007, 8, one of the things we did is we passed a bond issue of $10 to $11 million to retrofit all the public buildings in order to reduce the amount of energy that we consume. You can see what our electric bill was in 2007. It's kind of an old slide. But the savings that we incurred from all of those improvements to the buildings actually exceeds the debt service on that 15-year note. So at the end of 15 years, you'll have roughly a $700,000 improvement on the savings of power at all the facilities in Johnson City. And then as we build, we try to keep all of the buildings up to date in the energy codes and try to maximize our return. So we put a geothermal facility at Fairmont School. So that's in operation, and other improvements at the treatment plants. They do a great job. So we did the lighting systems and et cetera, et cetera. You can see that we're saving roughly $700,000 in utility expenses. So if you divide that by the 6 cents a kilowatt, it gives you an idea how much power we're saving. One of the things, we have about 100 traffic signals in town. A few years ago, we changed it out from just typical bulbs to LED. Reduced our power consumption by about 90%. The return on investment was about a 2-year return. Actually, it was greater than that. We actually had 2 people in a bucket truck constantly changing out these signal bulbs. And so when we changed them all out, we probably had 2 burnouts in the last 6, 7, 8 years. We are currently into changing out all of the street lights in town from the high pressure sodium to LED. The wattages are about half of the consumption. Our power bill, we consume about $600,000. So we'll cut that in half. So take 300,000 divided by 0.06, kind of gives you an idea of how much power savings just from that effort. When I first got here 40 years ago, we were changing from mercury lights to the high pressure sodium, and now we're changing again in order to save money. Now we're changing again with the LED technology that's pretty cost effective. After we do that in the neighborhoods, then to be consistent with what we're doing downtown and the renovation of downtown, we'll go into the surrounding neighborhoods. We'll assess lighting to try to pinpoint where the high crime areas are, make improvements to the neighborhoods so that what we're doing downtown will actually move right into the adjoining downtown areas over the next 5 years or so. And hopefully the lighting will actually reduce the crime rate in some of the areas. We actually have it was a $5 million project where we computerized, interconnected all the signals in town. We have about 100. I think we're around 75% connected now with a hardwire connection, fiber connection. And our intent there is to give us an ability to be in an office and be able to monitor all of the signals simultaneously and make appropriate adjustments. Hopefully it cuts down on the amount of stoppage. I know State of Franklin's got a problem with folks, but there is a reason for that. We give away trees. ETSU has been really a great partner and continues to do it. We've given away over the last, I'd say, 10 years, 24,000 or so trees in the community. All of the plantings you see, the hanging baskets, that's all those plantings are done at a greenhouse we constructed and manage. So all those come out of our own greenhouses. And we maintain about 300,000 square feet of planted areas around town. And finally, solar power. You heard the power board talk, so I won't say much about it, but they're developing a 10 megawatt facility out in Telford. That's a change in regulations. as a result of changes to where you can do off-premise solar power that you can buy into. It also affects the peak demand. There's a big deal about peak demands and what you pay for power, so that when they see that creeping up, that they will be able to offset that peak and keep the peak down, so they can keep their overall cost of the month down. And that will be expanded. They're looking at a couple other sites, one of which is the Bowser Ridge Landfill. That would be a 5 megawatt site. We looked at wind. We don't generate enough wind. We did a study up on Buffalo Mountain, and it wasn't enough to substantiate a windmill facility in this area, so we backed off of that. And so there you have it. Those are some of the things that we're doing by the City of Johnson City, and I appreciate everything. Are there any questions? Great. Oh, okay, here's one.
You mentioned an elementary school with geothermal. Is geothermal a larger possibility in residential areas and in this area? Because sometimes issues around drilling, geology, it's not suited, but apparently it is. That's a mixed bag as to whether or not we're actually saving a whole lot of energy by the use of geothermal. I'm not sure that on a residential facility that it would be cost effective.
If I can address that, we had a geothermal heat pump put in our house a year and a half ago, and the payback is going to be 10 to 12 years, but it also partially heats our water. So in the summertime, when our house has excess heat and you ordinarily use air conditioning, that heat is drawn into our geothermal system, and so there's some trade-offs like that. The problems, as you and you alluded, geologically, we have so many cave systems and porous space here. Although the clay is wonderful where you have it for drilling purposes, I mean, not for gardening, they can't assure that they're going to be able to drill deep enough and with the parallel tubing. So we went lateral, and we have very good clay, but we have enough space to do that. So we had to go 300 feet out. So you have to think about, your installers really know the area, they know the potential costs and the potential hazards for that. But we believe it was a worthy investment. And it's a very quiet and warm system. Some people think that geothermal, keeping at, you're using the groundwater temperature at roughly 55 degrees, so you're only heating whatever you need beyond that. It's very warm. It's not, in the wintertime, it doesn't feel chilly at all. It's very warm.
And it also qualifies for the 30%
It does.
energy rebate. That's a nice check to get.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to take the opportunity to thank the city for their efforts. In the past 10 years, the two things that have most greatly impacted the quality of life have been Casey Trail and the Fountains of Birth restoration. So I'm just seeing that initiative toward widening the trails out makes me feel like I can live here well for a long time. So I don't know if that's how other citizens feel, but thank you so much.
I'd like to add to that. This, I'm relatively new here, and I think that this is a well-kept secret. I know that you present at the Tennessee Environmental Conference, and this probably comes out in our little billing thing, but I just think that this is something where you could toot your own horn a little bit, because these are very forward-thinking approaches that you've taken and put in place already, and the fact that you're looking, you really do meet the sustainability sort of aspect that we're looking for. So, thank you. Thanks.
It's all of this stuff you just presented is publicized. I suspect there are some Johnson City residents, and I'm not from here, that were quite shocked to hear some of this. And I don't know if your PR, I'm saying I think your PR people need to do maybe a little more work. Some of these are some really impressive initiatives, and of course, always more to be done. But especially the money savings.
Right, everything kind of centers on money.
That's right.
One of the things that the community should recognize, needs to recognize, is that you're a lot more forward-thinking than you think you are, or that has been publicized. And actually, you have good leadership, and a leadership that actually is sensitive to the environment and wants to do different things. Every time we look at what other cities are doing, we're very comparable. We just don't talk about it, I guess, enough. And that's just something I don't do. But you really are much more innovative. You initiate new ideas to a much greater extent than you probably recognize. So there you have it. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there are any incentives for developers for brownfield sites, or just developers in particular to put in some of these infiltration areas as far as the pervious pavement and things like that to help. And so how is that public-private partnership that you might have to encourage them to do that?
There are incentives. There's incentives for green space as a percentage to knock off amounts from your utility bill, from your stormwater portion of your utility bill. You use the rate structure is based on how much permeable or impermeable area that you have. So the less that you have, by using permeable pavers and that sort of thing, you actually get a credit for that. So there are incentives on the water quality side for developers. They typically don't choose to use them too long. Are there any other questions?
You were talking about putting up more lighting to maybe reduce crime. The only concern I've ever had with like BT trails is lighting, because what if you don't make it back in time and it's darker? And I have no answer for that, but like, is there any way to make sure that it's less likely to happen?
We probably will not light the Tweetsie Trail as a whole. What we may do, and likely to do, is as we redo the bridge that crosses the 4-lane to Elizabethton, we're going to repaint it and then put Tweetsie Trail on it. We will probably add solar-powered lighting in that area for folks so that it shines, and then there's less inclination of people standing on the bridge doing stupid things. Yeah. But not along the trail. That's not been broken.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about the whole cost issue, but...
Right, if we do anything, we would do something at the entrances and stuff. So.
Time for one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned capping some of these areas where they have been previously heavily polluted.
Yep.
What is that, and is it effective long term?
You typically put 2 feet of clay. You may sometimes do liners and that sort of thing. And then when you construct on top, you can't just drive your columns into you can't break the cap. So typically everything that gets built on it is on a floating slab, so that you just spread concrete out and then build your building on top of it so it just sits on top. The monitoring devices are both for both type of aquifers. The one we get sensitive to is the deep aquifers. There's probably a little bit of movement on the upper ones. We're really kind of sensitive to the lower ones. The fortunate thing is that nobody should be on a well. In Johnson City, we don't permit it anymore, even though there are wells, but we don't permit it, and people shouldn't be on wells. What you think is clean water probably is not. So that's the way we monitor, and so we, in essence, we would watch a plume. You know, Oak Ridge has a real issue with the contamination from the nuclear facility, and they got a plume moving into Oak Ridge, and we may have a plume. So we watch to see if the plume moves to see what we would have to do next. One more.
Hey, yeah. I'm just going to put a plug in for becoming an active citizen. I've served on, I don't know, 3 times on the tree and appearance board and on the public art committee and a couple other ones, because Phil knows that I'm a joiner, I guess. But anyways, we need people on these committees to have a voice to, you know, to help us decide what kind of art's going to be down in the park. You know, where does the trail go next? What kind of tree cover we should have? I know you have openings on the tree and appearance board right now, public zoning, historic commission. I'm trying to think all the different ones. So if you really want to push our city in the right direction, I encourage you to apply for those boards, because you really do get to know what's going on and make a difference.
I would encourage your, and I would ditto that, I would encourage your involvement. And if you have anything that you'd like to see us working on, just please notify me, and we'll do our best to respond. Thank you very much.